Welcome to today's video. In this one, we've got the brand new iPad Pro with the M4 chip. This model in front of me is the 11-inch with the nano textured glass. Today's video, I want to give my first impressions with this iPad. I'm obviously a content creator. I'm on the go a lot. I'm editing photos in cafes a lot of the times if it's for social media. And the reason why I wanted an iPad was because I wanted something that can just go with me to places. If I have a bigger client edit or I have a bigger project I'm working on, it's obviously going to stay on my laptop. I'm going to do most of the edits there. This would be the thing that I would bring around with me to more portable places, do the lighter work. Maybe it's more social media focused, and just also be more of a travel companion. I'm planning on upgrading my laptop in the next year or so, and laptops are obviously 2 to 3 times more expensive than an iPad. So I want to limit the amount of places I'm taking my laptop to and use this instead. So my thought with today's video was that we can go through a photo editing workflow and my first impressions as a first-time iPad owner editing on an iPad. And to do that, I actually went downtown Toronto last night to shoot some photos. Now, I think the first thing we need to talk about are some of the new features that have been released on the iPad and why I picked this thing up ahead of an M2 iPad. First impressions when I picked this thing up is obviously how thin it is. It is the thinnest Apple product ever made. Now, I've listened to a few reviews about this, and that's kind of like a bit of a contentious issue at the moment, which is like, why did they make it so thin? I believe it's 11 hours total in the Pro models, which is the same as what we were going to get on the M2s that were thicker. So it's kind of like, why didn't they leave it thicker and give us more battery life? But I haven't really seen why that would be a thing yet. I'm going to do a long-term review and see if that's a bad thing. I'm kind of happy with how thin it is and how light it is. It's just so easy to hold compared to my laptop. The second thing you're going to notice is obviously where the webcam has been moved. So they've moved the webcam up to the top now on the horizontal part, which in my opinion just makes a lot more sense because the originals had it when you would hold it vertically. And now you can just lay it up on your iPad stand or just use it a little bit easier for video calls. And on the back, the camera, the wide angle lens has actually been removed. So we now only have 2 cameras on the back part of your iPad. And then the next thing, and probably the bigger selling feature for me, instead of bringing my laptop around, which is my base workstation, which is going to be 2 to 3 times more expensive than what an iPad actually costs, this is the perfect tool because it has the nano textured glass. Now, obviously the Pro XDR displays that Apple released in the past had the nano textured glass, and they weren't really met with much excitement. I didn't get one. I know a lot of people didn't get one, but it probably was the wrong tool to release it on, given that when you have a content creator studio that you've set up for yourself, you're gonna design the studio to not have a lot of reflections hit your computer screen anyway. But with an iPad with nano textured glass, it's meant to cut the reflections so that when you bring it into a challenging environment that might have a ton of reflections, it gets rid of them. And already I'm actually noticing the difference, and I was very skeptical at first, but I'm very happy with it so far. It just like puts focus on the screen. There's less distractions. It's matte finish. It's really nice so far. So we'll see how it holds up, because a lot of people were saying like maybe it's going to smudge. It's going to get a lot more wear and tear easier. So we'll see what happens in a year's time. I will say first impressions, fingerprints are very noticeable on it. So I'm wiping it down a lot, and that's already with minimal use. You have to use Apple's microfiber cloth with it as well. So getting that out of the way, I ended up going with the 2 terabyte model just because I have photos that are taken primarily on a Sony A1, which we've got right here. And there's going to be a lot of file storage issues, I'm sure, especially if these things are being saved to the cloud. And then the last thing that I wanted to mention is just that I went with the 11-inch because I'm looking for something more portable. My plan is to upgrade my laptop probably in the next year or so. My current one is the M1 Ultra. And it's starting to chug with video files and just if the edits get a little bit crazy. So this is meant as a companion, a little travel companion for me, so I don't need to schlep a more expensive workstation around. So with that, we're going to dump the photos onto the iPad for the first time right now. And one thing that was holding me back from iPad ownership was a Lightroom app that wasn't actually native to iPad, which they have finally fixed. And I'll show you this workflow in real time. Again, I haven't done anything with this in the past, we're going to do first impressions live look here. So this is the Sony A1. This is my A cam. This is what I shot photos on last night. And whenever you're uploading to iPad, you just same process as you're going to do with your computer if you're going to tether it. Now, the cool thing about the iPad app is that it is cloud-based. So you can't use Lightroom Classic on your iPad. You have to make it on the new Lightroom app itself that you can also get access to on computer. So if you are using Lightroom Classic, you're going to have to switch, but I think the switch was inevitable for a lot of us. Okay, so it's pretty much the same process as with a computer. You literally just go to your devices, you click your camera, SD option, it's going to automatically import the photos into the iPad, and then you're going to select and import them from there. So once that's done, I'm going to take the A1, I'm going to give a POV view from above, and you can see me editing the photos actually in the iPad. Okay, so the files have downloaded, and the first thing I noticed is that it actually took around 7 minutes to get 150-ish photos into the iPad. So that's interesting. I want to figure out why that is before I make a comment about it. I'm going to go through and basically just take a look, see which ones I like. Also, we've got the Apple Pencil. So this is something I was super excited about. Obviously, it's a new upgraded Apple Pencil that only works with these new iPads. Again, a bit of a controversial issue about like, why would they do that? Obviously, they want you to buy more Apple Pencils. So far, I really haven't used it. I've never used an Apple Pencil, but it's fine. I'm imagining you probably want to keep the top of it clean because otherwise you're going to be wiping those fingerprints we earlier talked about. Anyway, so I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of the photo walk here, and there are a couple photos that I think we can start with. So let me take a look at what's going on. I don't like that one. Put a little BTS there. This one of the guys kind of cool. What else we got? Let's start with a simple one. Okay, so I got this shot of the motorbike coming down. So let's edit this vertically, and we've got the exposure here. So I generally shoot everything at a -1.0 exposure when I'm out doing street. And as you can see, we've got some good details going on. So let's double tap that out. It's pretty intuitive, if I'm being honest. It's basically like a phone. So at the end of the day, if you know how to edit on your iPhone, I'm guessing it's going to be the same thing. I'm not really liking how it's like moving it to the side here. But if I like turn it, let's just see what happens. Okay, so they want you to edit it horizontal. You want to edit it horizontal, but then the image is smaller. So the image is smaller, and then the right moves away from the image. If you edit it vertically, it's a lot nicer to get that. It's bigger. You want a bigger image when you're editing. So that makes sense. So let's do then, let's get their exposure dialed in. Let's get our color correct. So let's warm up this image a little bit. I like where this is at. So we're editing this photo net new. We're not using presets. We're just going to go. So as you can see, I keep wanting to drag the contrast, and that's because in my preset, I have very strong tone curve settings applied. That's what I'm currently looking for. So I want to find the tone curve here. Here we go. So we have this. So I generally put 3 dots. We're going to go up with that. We're going to go down with this. We want a nice smooth S, a little bit of white fall off for that vintage feel. This is cool. Okay, so it's pretty accurate, to be honest. The thing I'm wondering about when it comes to we're not going to mess around with the RGB curves. The thing I'm wondering about is when this comes to masking. So I generally mask at the end, and we can see what that looks like. So let's see then if we can do a before after here. So before, after. So let's go to our colors, color mix. We're going to tilt these to be a little bit more orange. As you can see, the buildings in the back are going to change. Tilt this. This display is great. This display is like really, really great. Definitely a fan of this. Very cool. So already though, I'm not liking how it's so saturated up in the top right of the image. So we're going to want to fix that at some point. But let's go to our color grading. Again, these are going to be fast edits. So we have our highlights, our midtones, and our shadows. So our highlights generally, oh, this is great. This is fun. This is a lot more fun to use than doing it on the computer. So let's go with some blue. So now where are my saturation settings? What an interesting app. There we go. So let's bring the saturation to 5. Let's bring the saturation to 9. That's pretty good. The pencil is very sharp, like very, very, very accurate. Big fan of that. Like that's looking pretty solid. So I'm happy with that. So let's do now the masking. So this is the real test of why you want to get an iPad. I talk to everybody that uses an iPad, and they're going to tell you that the Apple Pencil, the hyper accuracy of like how you can mask with this when you're actually adding it into Lightroom, or even if you're using Illustrator or whatever that might be, this is the way to do it. So let's go ahead and just see how this works out. I've never done this before. Oh, cool. Okay, big fan. I like that. Really like the amount of pressure. So instead of needing to like set your feathers like you would on a computer when you set your feather, pressure wise, the pressure applies it. So I like that. That's cool. That is very cool. Okay, so let's just mess around here then. So you obviously have the feathers on the left bar here, and then the flow. So the flow is going to be the amount of pressure that you're going to get. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so I mean, generally what I do is like you apply it all at once. Today is not the day. We're going to learn how to beautifully mask with the Apple Pencil. This is just first impressions, right? We're going to see how that works, but like this is great. Okay, so now what do I want to do is, as you can see, it's obviously like a little dark there. So we're going to raise up the exposure a bit. We're going to lower the highlights. There we go. So we're evening out this shadow in particular. And then color-wise, we're going to decrease some of the saturation there because it's distracting. Basically, the goal of this image is going to be to put the focus on the motorcycle. So again, we're just doing this kind of haphazard. We're not going to do this like crazy. So let's go there. So I always, so let's go invert that. Nice. Let's go done, and let's go back. That's annoying. I can already see that being annoying, is like needing to flip between the two. But so the goal here with this part is I'm raising the exposure to get the bike properly exposed. And then when I flip back to my masks, I then lower the exposure around the bike to draw the viewer's eye to that point of focus. And obviously, as you can see, there's like a lot of contrast going on in this image. So now again, I'm going to flip back, and then I'm going to keep that the same, but I'm going to flatten this out. My images generally are very flat, and I then add the contrast with masking a lot of the times. So already though, I'm not liking how often for my workflow I'm going to need to flip back. So that'll be a learning curve for sure. I always add like linear gradients on the bottom. So let's see how that works out. So we unlocked it now. I'm going to have to figure that one out. Done. Let's go back. And then can I rotate? Cool. So let's go light, lower the exposure here, add more contrast into the ground. And then I'm going to go done. And then I'm going to go back, light, color. I want the clarity slider. Where is the clarity slider? There we go. So as you can see, the back, the light just really gets like punchy there. So we want to make that. And then again, I'm going to add another mask and then go radial gradient on the biker itself. Then I'm going to go and up the clarity, and then on the back of the image, I'm going to add another mask. Let's go with the brush, and let's brush this out. This is fun. I'm liking this. I think I could see this being like a fun way to edit photos. I don't think I could see myself doing this all the time. I mean, I say that now, but you're more locked in. Like you're more locked into the edit than I would have been doing this on the computer. So let's add more contrast just to the front of the image. And I mean, that's looking pretty good. That's looking really good. I'm very happy with that. I mean, I'm super picky. I'm very picky with my images. So the other thing I'd probably do is like with the sky, I would make this a little bit more blue. And I mean, we can call that done for today because I want to get to some other images and just keep on going with things. But that is looking like a very solid edit. And in person with the nano textured glass, couldn't tell you the difference. In all honesty, it looks super color accurate to me. There's nothing in this image that I would say like, oh, the display of the nano textured glass is making it darker or lighter or whatever. So when I flip it to iPhone and upload it to Instagram, That'll be the real test. So if you want to see the results of that, follow me on Instagram. I'm going to upload all of these photos and then you can take a look. So, okay, cool. Let's look then for a more dynamic photo. Let's test editing a landscape photo and see what happens here. So let's flip that around. If you're a big landscape photographer or someone that uses landscape primarily in Lightroom, then this will be the one for you. So we're correcting for our highlights, our exposure level, bringing up the shadow, because again, I shoot a stop down. Let's go with the black, flatten the image, flip over. Oh, cool. All right, so we got the whole thing now as a tone curve. Interesting. Again, just adding contrast, right? That's always the goal. So that's looking pretty good for right now. Cool, let's lower the whites, pop over to color. Let's add some warmth. That's looking like a pretty solid image to me. I'm gonna add another radial gradient. I'm liking this. I could see this being a great workflow. As far as I'm concerned, the screen is fine with this nano textured glass. This Apple Pencil is more than intuitive to use. Let's do another landscape photo. So last one, let's see how fast we can make this. So go with the exposure, let's get some shadows up, highlights down, contrast down, and then whites down, blacks. Let's leave blacks for now, blacks a little bit up. And let's go and add our, see, finicky. Telling you, a little bit finicky, but that's okay. So 1, 2, 3, up, down, down, up. And that's looking pretty solid to me. Let's go over this. Color-wise, warm it up. So it's nice summer, spring night. I love that. That is a good vibe right there. Color mix. Let's go. See, it is a little finicky. It's not so sharp yet. Like, you have to know where to press what you're doing. Nice. That's some good tones. I'm happy with that. There, and let's go saturation. So then let's go back to our color grading. Now, we didn't do this in the other one, but that's okay. Because I think we get the point of how it's supposed to work. I'm very happy with that. I think this is fun to be very creative with. Now, the one thing is the auto mask. I'm not using it with this. So it's kind of interesting because I almost feel like you're better off using the tools as they're given to you, and really just controlling it with the Apple Pencil in this instance. So keeping with that brush there, we can raise the exposure on the building, bring in more contrast, and then obviously bring up the clarity on the Guterhem building. Done. We forgot to lower the contrast on the overall image, I meant clarity, bring down the clarity. And then let's add another mask here. Let's invert it. There we go. Now, what I realized, what's been bothering me about this is how much of the mask isn't feathered. So we want it there. That's what I've been noticing. I feather my masks. That's not there. So I feel like you have to have a little bit of a background knowledge on Lightroom to know this easier, would be my guess. Because there's certain things here where I'm like, I think it's more intuitive on desktop than it is on iPad out the gate. So probably spending some time in desktop would be worth your time if you're going about it. But that is looking pretty solid to me. I'm happy with that. So we started off pretty slow. Getting this to work, but 3 images in and already I'm just like, know what to do. So the pencil's really cool. First impressions of the iPad Pro, I think this is gonna be great. This is very fun to use. Ton of fun here editing. I hope you also learned a little bit of editing tips. Overall, I think the nano glass, I think it's gonna be more additive than detractive. I say that now. We don't know what it's gonna look like in a year. A lot of people obviously think the wear and tear is gonna be weird, but honestly, this is pretty great. So as a first impressions video, I think we can end it here for photo editing. If video editing is something that you want to see, comment down below. We can go through a Final Cut first impressions walkthrough. And if there are any questions you want answered about the iPad, also let me know in the comments below and we can go through it. So with that, I hope you enjoyed today's video and you found it useful. If you did, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. And with that, I will see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching.